In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to deal with battery pack corrosion, how to replace an antenna on a Sennheiser SK100, and we are going to do it all in hopes that we will be celebrating instead of in the corner crying. So let's get started with today's video. So today's video was supposed to be about replacing the antenna on this Sennheiser Generation 2 SK100 body pack transmitter. I found this in some old audio equipment that I was going through. But when I opened the door, it was full of battery corrosion. Look at that, just eat up all the contacts. So that's what we're going to do in today's video. We're going to not only replace this antenna, but we're also going to fix this battery corrosion. So let me show you how a electronics engineer like me fixes battery corrosion in a device like this. So there are three things that I normally use depending on the amount of corrosion in something. The first thing is always isopropyl alcohol. Now, technically, isopropyl alcohol doesn't have the ability to neutralize alkaline type acids. However, it is very good at removing anything from a surface, and it can remove all the acid from the surface. Not technically neutralizing it, but it works good. Now, this is Microcare Flux Remover. It's just 99% isopropyl alcohol. I wonder if I could bust this. I better stop doing that. And then the next thing, if it won't come off, I like to use contact cleaner. Now this is Deoxit Gold. If it'll focus, this is Deoxit Gold. I bought this off of Amazon because unfortunately Radio Shack is no longer in business and I miss them. I'm sure the rest of you do too. However, this is something that's really good I bought off of Amazon. And then if the corrosion is absolutely super bad, white vinegar. Now, let me tell you something. I know I'm a redneck, but trust me, this is vinegar in this mason jar, not white lightning. I use the white lightning at home to run my weed eaters and my lawnmower. So, I use a 70-30 mixture, 70% vinegar, 30% water, and then some baking soda, of course, to neutralize the vinegar. If we have to use the vinegar today, make sure you do not leave that on any electronics because it's corrosive in and of itself and will cause a whole lot more problems if you leave it on there. So let's get started taking this thing apart and then we'll see how bad the corrosion is. All right, let's take this thing apart. We'll start by this clip back here. Now, as my advice, anytime you go to fix corrosion or something like that on one of these units that... well, that clip just went away. That you take it apart as far as you're comfortable with because you need to get as much corrosion as you can out. Just simply spraying cleaner and cleaning down here isn't going to do a whole lot for what's up inside, which is where the major part of the damage probably is. So you need to do as much as you can, taking apart as much as you are comfortable with. Now, these are T7 screws, I believe. So let me get these screws out. So I'll go ahead and show you this. I haven't took the pack completely apart yet, but if we can focus there, you can already see some corrosion down in that one screw hole, which is directly behind the battery compartment. So I hope that this isn't super corroded, but we'll have to see. So I assume I've took the Gen 1 and 2, I mean the 2s and the 3s and 4s, excuse me, apart. So I think this just pops out. So let me get these screws out here, and I need to take and remove this battery door, which is right here. You just poke and the rod comes out just like that, and then the battery door will come off, and the two halves are supposed to separate. So let's, yeah, just like that. I have to admit, it's beautiful German engineering. So the two halves just separate like this. The corrosion is making it really tight to get this out. And then there we go. There is the unit inside. So we can see, oh yeah, see, the corrosion, if I can focus here, how the corrosion has eaten away and gotten up, right up in here in these contacts. So let me see if I can take this any further apart. Okay, so from looking at it, I think what I need to do is remove this ribbon cable here. So I'll grab my tweezers, remove this ribbon cable out, and then I'm going to take this small circuit board off. These are just, again, T7 screws, so let me get these unscrewed. Just a quick note for anyone who's playing along at home, this is a metal tapping screw that went into this one. These other two were machine screws. So just make sure when you're taking something apart, you pay attention to which screw went where. But let's try to remove this board. Okay, the antenna comes with it. That's the antenna that we're going to have to replace a little bit later. Is this antenna right here? Just has this one little thing. It's very nice designed. Okay, so that's about, and then this, okay. So this will come sliding out of here. Oh, I'm losing buttons. So if you start to lose buttons and things like that, I would highly advise you go ahead and put them back into place so that way you don't lose them any further. So there we go for that. And there we go for that. Okay, beautiful. So let's get to the corrosion. So I've zoomed in here to where we can see, let's assess the damage. So you've got your contacts here, of course, that look just awful. And then these contacts here. And then that goes around into where it goes into the circuit board here and into the circuit board here. So let's just get our brush out with some isopropyl alcohol and see what that does. So I've got this little alcohol dispenser. It just dispenses alcohol up in here for the toothbrush that I'm using. But I'm just going to take and start, you know, kind of just wiping away and just seeing what comes off. Again, this is always my first step because I want to see how bad the corrosion is, and then we may break out some contact cleaner. So let's see here. Okay, so not too shabby with the alcohol. I think I need to get a flat-bladed screwdriver and scrape some of this, but I think the alcohol and maybe a little bit of contact cleaner will clean this up quite nicely. So let's start here. I always like to start from one side, so I'm starting here. I'm starting here and then working my way here through here and then back down here, sort of the way it would flow electrically. So let's start from here, and I'm just going to take and try to scrape some of this blue gunk, some of this corrosion off. By the way, you should be using gloves. I don't have any gloves, but what I do have is workers' compensation. So that's just about as good as gloves, I think. Probably so, I don't know. But we're just going to take and scrape away all this corrosion. There's a big chunk of corrosion right in there, a huge chunk of corrosion. So I'll grab my tweezers. I'm just going to get in there. I'm just trying to break it up. I just want to break up all that corrosion down there. I'm trying to be gentle because I don't want to damage the electronics in any way, damage these nickel tabs that are being around here. I don't want to damage those. So I'm just kind of scraping along. Again, you should be wearing gloves, but I don't have any. So it's fine. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to throw in some contact cleaner, I believe. So I'm just going to take my deoxit gold, and I don't have a paper towel for the area either because I don't have anything. So we're just going to make a mess. All right, spray some deoxit gold on there and get in there with our brush. This is really the problem here, this little spring. The rest of it come pretty clean, but the spring is where I'm having the most problems. So I really want to get in there. Now, again, not putting too much pressure, but I want to clean this spring up. All right, so I managed to get the spring cleaned up real well, but I'm just going to take my tweezers and I'm going to work down on all these little cracks and crevices and make sure I get out all of the little bits left of corrosion, because you want to make sure you get as much as you can out so nothing else happens. After some good brushing, I've got it looking really good. Now, there's some tarnishing down in there, but all of the major acid is gone. So I'm just going to I want to give everything a quick scrub down with some alcohol and get any residuals left over. Now, there are going to be some pockets that you cannot get off, okay? It's just impossible to get them out. And so, but if you do this and you clean it really good, it'll last a really long time. Now, some people say, why don't you just take and soak it in vinegar? The problem with that, it'll get off all the corrosion, don't get me wrong. But the problem with that is you soak it in vinegar, and then you're going to have vinegar in all of them crevices, which is going to cause corrosion again because vinegar is corrosive. So this is the method that I use. I get it, you know, about 90, I think I've got about 90% of it off, 95%, and I'm happy with that. This will work just fine for a very long time with as much work as I've done to it. Now let's get to replacing that antenna. I do apologize for the bad audio. For some reason, my microphone is messing up, but this is my Sunday Robotics Pro Buddy Kit, and I'm using it to hold the PCB. Now, here is the new antenna. So you can see the little hook there on the end, and that goes up through the circuit board. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to desolder the old antenna, and we're going to pull it out of the board, and then we're going to put the new one in. So let's get started with that. So I've got my soldering iron in, so we're just going to desolder this antenna right here. I always hate soldering on camera because everyone always judges you and your soldering is always awful on camera. And then we're just going to insert the new antenna on here. Actually, first before we do that, I'm going to put some new solder in that hole. So I'm just going to add a little bit of new solder to this hole. The reason for that is because this antenna lead will take some amount of solder. It'll wick up onto the antenna lead a little bit, so I don't want to remove a lot from the hole. So let's just poke that up in there. And then there we go. We have a repair. Now, I'm going to try to do a trick I normally do, and we're going to see if it works on camera. So I want to add a little bit more solder to that joint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two fingers, my middle and my ring finger, and I'm going to grab the antenna like this and support it. And then with my pointer and thumb finger, I'm going to grab the solder, and I'm going to solder it just like this. So I'm holding the component with these two fingers, and I'm soldering like this. And so see if I can do it. Yep, just like that. And a beautiful solder joint ready to go. So I went to go reassemble this, and I almost forgot to clean out the housings. Make sure you clean out the housings that these things were in, or you're just putting corrosion back in there. And make sure you be careful of what you use. Like for plastic, metal not so much, but for plastic, you could really damage it depending on what you're using to clean it with. All right, so let's get this thing back together. I am not 100% sure how it goes back together, but that's okay. I just lost a button. That is not okay. All right, so everything's been clean. Everything is finished. Let's get back to assembling this. Now, I have all my buttons. Make sure you have all your buttons in here. The first thing I'm going to do is put this piece in. Now, we do have these little plastic caps that go in these ends, but I'm going to do that after I put the antenna board on. So that board is on, and then let's take and stick the antenna board. Now, the antenna goes in that little slot here. So let's put that in there. It's okay if your ribbon cable bends down a little bit because we're going to pull it out with a pair of tweezers anyway, but that is okay. So let's grab our screws over here. Remember that the screw that goes in the top here has coarse threads on it like that. It's a metal type screw. So we'll grab our screwdriver. By the way, a very neat skill to have if you can. When you put the screw on the end of a screwdriver, if you can take and line up the threads, and you take your finger, stick it on the end of it, then you can use your other hand to manipulate whatever your device is, and then you can stick your screw in and get it started just like that. Now I'm going to leave it loose because I still need to put these other 3 screws in, so let's get those put in. Here is screw number 2. Again, don't tighten it down all the way. And then screw number 3, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten it all the way down to where it's snug. Just snug. You don't want to bust the board you just got done putting together. So till it's just snug, and then just snug, just like that. And I'm going to go around and make sure they're all snug, just like it. Because this does go on somebody's body, so it does have a lot of vibration and things. All right, now to the ribbon cable, I'm just going to take my tweezers and fold this out, back around just like this, pop it out. Then I want to take and carefully slide it in to its ZIF socket, just like that. And I want to make sure it's fully seated in there. So make sure that it's fully seated in the ZIF socket. May need to put a little bit of pressure from my thumb here, and then clamp that down. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of a tug. See, I didn't get it fully seated to give it a little bit of tug, even though it looks like it. So let's try this again. Yep, see, just like that. See, slide it right in there and then clamp it down. So make sure whenever you go to put something back in a ZIF socket like this, that you make sure you get it all the way in there and do a little bit of a pull test to make sure that it's fully seated. All right, now let's stick this back down in the back case. I think I'm supposed to stick these in here first and not in the carrier first. However, I'm not really sure. So I'm going to take and stick these plastic pieces back down in here and just see if that will work. I can see this part with all these little plastic pieces like this. This is going to be difficult. So you know what? Let's do it like this then. Let's stick them in the top here, just like this, and then let's try and put the top over it. Just like that. Then we're going to set the top over it. And there we go. And we're going to slide it together. And look at that. It goes back together beautifully. Now let's put the door on. Actually, before we put the door on, let's put it back in the last few remaining screws. I did take and clean this one corroded screw up, and the screw hole was in. So let's go ahead and take and put the case back together just like this. Screw number 2. Screw number 3, and screw number 4. So now let's put the battery door on. So we'll just stick this on just like this, and then slide our pin through the end all the way till it snaps into place. And make sure that this little clip is snapped in that groove in the middle. And there we go. Let's throw some batteries in it and see if it works. All right, I got some good old Rayovac batteries here, and we'll just throw these in here and see if she works. By the way, I have no idea if this worked when I pulled it out of the box that it was in. So hopefully it does come back on. Well, it's not coming on. It is absolutely not coming on. Got fresh batteries in it and everything, and it is broken. I guess that's why it was in that box in the first place when I found it. So a little bit disappointing that I couldn't fix this thing and get it going, but still a fun video to make. Again, everything is not successful, but you can have fun doing it. So that's it for today's video. Stay tuned for all the other stuff that I've got planned for the channel, and I will see everyone in the next video. Okay. It's okay. You're a good engineer. Everything doesn't have to work when you fix it. It's okay. It was already broken in the first place. It's okay. It's okay that it didn't work. It's okay. It's okay. You're a good engineer. You're a good engineer.